Well, ladies and gentlemen, back and again to break the illusion in your life and to introduce you to the reality of this world, which runs on the essence of astrology. So today, we are going to be doing our weekly transit video, and this time it's going to be on Rahu, the north node of the moon. I was actually planning to do Rahu and Ketu together, but I'm like, man, it's too much information. It's going to take too long because each of these nodes are doing something very, very vital and important. So we're simply going to take it one shadow planet at a time. So as you know, for this, you're going to have to know what your ascendant is, what your moon sign is, because you always want to study the transit from the ascendant itself, which is first the most important, then from your moon, the moon chart, making the moon your ascendant and seeing the planets from the moon's perspective. And if you do not have this information and you want to know all the planetary alignments and where the north node of the moon might be transiting, like Rahu, for that, check out the links here. Check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects of the Speed of Light, including all my consultations here. And also, like I said, I'm almost done with my book, Mahadashas at the Speed of Light, where I'll simply simplify the concept of studying Mahadashas for you guys. So, let's talk about Rahu. Rahu. You know, if Saturn, like when I did my Saturn's transit, I talked about Saturn breaks the illusion, right? Saturn is about showing you the practical side of life, the hard side of life. Like Saturn says, look, as much as you might see people in a hurricane and flood on newses and you think it may not happen to you, well, here we go. I'm bringing you the storm as well. So it shows that nobody is a special person on this planet. We are all under this karmic play of the planets and, you know, our previous spirits and previous karmas. So Saturn does that. But then Rahu is completely the opposite. Rahu is the one who sets the illusion within us. So why does Rahu does this? Rahu, as you know, is a smoky planet, right? It's this illusion. Like ghosts are seen through Rahu. Something which is there, but it's not there. You can see right through it. Something that puts fear in you. Saturn puts fear in you, and then Rahu puts fear in you. Saturn puts fear like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I want to pay my bills. Rahu puts this fear in you. It's dark. Is there something here? Is there a spirit here? You see those two fears. One is real, one is not really there. It may be there, but it may not be. You might just be thinking, making illusions in your head, which is what Rahu is. Why does it do that? Why are Saturn and Rahu polar opposites? Because Saturn and Rahu are co-ruler of the sign of Aquarius. Like Mars, Ketu rule the sign of Scorpio, Saturn, Rahu co-rule the sign of Aquarius. And I know many astrologers don't follow this. Many astrologers don't follow the aspect of Rahu, which is fine. Hey, if they can give you a better prediction than me or anybody else, then you got to go with them. You got to understand them. But again, you will find people who will give you great predictions with using Rahu as a co-ruler of Aquarius and Rahu having aspects. Simple. It's everybody's game as long as you can play the game correctly. So this is the part A of this Rahu's transit, and in this, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through houses, what Rahu does. And so Rahu, I'm sure you have heard it many, many times from me. And I already explained half of what Rahu is. Yet Rahu is this overblown mirage that may or may not be there. Like, you know how there's this bird in the wild, to scare off the predators, it becomes fat and it like grows big. It like has these like feathers come out. Yet once everything goes down, it's just this little bird. But the prey gets scared. Or the predator who's trying to prey upon the bird. That's what the illusion of Rahu is. What you see is there, but it's probably the exaggeration of what you're seeing. Like a film celebrity. This is why film industry is ruled by Rahu. You look at a film celebrity, you think they're gods, you think they're untouchable. But they're passing gas and farting just like you. They're having marriage problems just like you. They smell in the morning just like you. And without their makeup, they're butt ugly just like you. So you see that illusion. Everybody's beautiful, everybody's ugly. Depends upon how thick of a makeup you put on. So anyway, let's talk about this balloon of illusion through houses, when it transits. And as you know, Rahu transits along with Ketu in a particular sign for 18 months. So this is an 18-month cycle. This is why when you're studying a chart where you do not know the accurate time of birth, you can still do a lot by just studying the transit of Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu. And you can literally pinpoint certain things that they might be going through in this life. And this is why I encourage, just like Yuvraj, who came in this past weekend on my channel, said, you gotta study the basics. Like, just try to study a chart without signs, without degrees, nakshatras, just have planets in their individual boxes. And if you know the basics of astrology, what a certain house stands for, what a certain planet stands for, you will give just as beautiful of a rating as if you were to with nakshatras and divisional charts and whatnot. You may actually give a better reading without looking at these things than to look at those things. That's the secret of this astrology, is, the basics. So let's start with our basic of Rahu. So when we are studying Rahu through transit, when it transits your first house, that midpoint of that chart becomes that ascendant. Your part of ego, personality, your body, what your whole life is all about, because without the ascendant, nothing can happen. You do not exist without the ascendant. So when Rahu transits, okay, and remember, this is only part A. We do not know what sign Rahu is in, right? That's something that's like adding a layer on to your basic studies of Rahu. But just by knowing the basics, you'll be able to understand what's going on. So when Rahu comes into the ascendant, what do you think can happen to a person or you who is watching this? See, remember that Rahu is this special mirror where you put it in front of you and your muscles are like that big compared to this big. So what happens is our personality is overblown. Our ego is overblown. Suddenly we feel this energy of being a hero and taking over something. Like, especially if you look at like mass shootings that happen, and all those crazy people who do the mass shootings, they'll either have like Mars transiting their ascendant, Rahu transiting their ascendant, Jupiter transiting their ascendant, because as much as some of these planets are very positive, yet what they do is that their job is to either make you feel like a hero, overblown your personality, or make you just feel like you know everything and people below you don't know anything. So for you to kill them, it's okay. They're like ants for you. So here, for that 18-month period, you're going to be in this illusion like, who I am bigger than myself. That's what you're really going to be feeling, like I am bigger than myself, and I'm going to be over-exaggerating who I am. So what happens here is that a person will tend to introduce themselves as, I am this, this, and this. I clearly remember back, I think in 2004, 5, 6, 7, okay? Up until even 2008. Anybody who asked me, So what do? Man, I would go on like a 5 to 10 minute tangent. Oh yeah, I'm a producer and I'm a director. I'm making this movie and I just raised money from here and I'm doing this and I just got this new camera and we're going to be doing this and I shot this video and this thing is interested in me. And while my movie is nowhere to be even started, although I did finish all those movies that I said I was going to make, I made 3 feature-length movies. And now I think about it, I'm like, how did I do it, man? I was crazy energy back then. And I would like, if I say it, I did it. I wanted to make this movie, and I made this movie. I wanted to make this movie, I made it. Somehow, some way I found the money. But what my point is that I really would over-exaggerate who I was and what I wanted to do. And when I went back in time, I'm like, oh my God, this is the time when Rahu was actually transiting, and then during this time Jupiter was transiting, and I'm just like, oh my God, how stupid can you be to, overblow yourself, when I now realize that the other person might be just thinking, oh my God, what a loser. So that's what happens. Like Rahu puts you in this illusion that you are more important than the other person. Because remember, when Rahu transits the first house, Ketu is in the 7th house. And I'm going to talk about Ketu when I get to his transit. So now the focus is on you. He's like, I don't know who you are. Let's talk about me. I know who I am. So that's the first house transit of Rahu. Here, Rahu may, if Rahu transits through a certain sign, may even bring like food poisoning, may even bring like bitten by somebody who's poisonous, whether it's a snake or a bee, or spider. Usually it happens in the 6th house, because Rahu represents poison. And Rahu represents seeing things that are not really there. So here, and this doesn't mean you're going to see something. No, people see you as somebody who's not really there. Meaning you will act erratically, you will act rebelliously, and you will not be yourself. Rahu transits our 2nd house. In this transit of Rahu, a person will get their bank account overblown. Now, here's the thing about it. Is this really an illusion, or can Rahu give you wealth? No, it does. It gives you wealth. But you got to understand something here. 2nd house is what we value. What is our value? Or whatever our values is stored in the 2nd house. I value my parents. I value religion, spiritual knowledge. So whatever we value is becoming more of an illusion than reality. What happens is we start valuing the more material side of our 2nd house than the real side of our 2nd house. So what happens here is that a person will be more focused on how to attain family assets and wealth, how to attain, that jewelry, those gems in my possession, versus how my family is doing. And what happens is we overblow our love for the 2nd house in this time period. We're like, oh my God, I love you guys. This is so great. All right, so where's my inheritance? So Rahu will always bring this positive and negativity with everything. Wherever it transits. Sure, there's point of exaltation and debilitation with Rahu. So the level of positivity and negativity will balance out. In a certain side, Rahu will give more positive. In certain side, Rahu will give more negative. But that's what happens is that you will get the money, because money is what? Illusion. It's our, we think money is something of value, but it's not. It is actual knowledge. It's your love for your family. It's your knowledge, what you learn. That is what really is value. So in that perspective, money does come. Yet what this happens with this person, even when they don't have money, what happens is the tendency is to show off themselves as they're very valuable. And this is where a negative Rahu can take a person into debt. Because they want to show that I'm driving this nice car, I'm wearing these nice clothes or nice jewelry, and I'm doing very well. How are you doing? Look at my assets. Did you see my new car I got? On my 4 credit cards that I put, plus all my savings, just to make you feel happy. So that's what Rahu is doing in the second house. But what happens is, Rahu is about expanding things immediately. So what happens in the second house, one may just get a hoard of wealth at one point. Kind of like, let's say, a movie comes out for an actor or producer, or an author releases their book. Within a week, 2 million people have bought that book, and now this author never has to work in their life. Movie comes out, makes 100 million the first week, and the producer is like, he's chilling. That's the kind of wealth Rahu may give in the second house. But then again, our value systems get more screwed up. Our ego builds up, because second house is second from our first house. And so it's gains of our ego. Our ego becomes too big here. Rahu transits the third house. Here, there's this great need to communicate with the world. Your communication is going to be all about to gain something for yourself. Like, somebody who becomes a great salesman. In this time period, the salesman will do very, very well, because they will be able to sell anything and everything due to the fact their communication may not be the complete truth about the product. And if, let's say, Rahu is in a very good position, this person, with their magnetism, with their ability to communicate, will be able to give you the right product with the right description, and they're going to make the equivalent amount of money. So remember, there are bad people making money in this world through their communication. There are good people making money in this world through their communication. The judging of that is seen through their foundation that they're sitting on, which is the sign, the other aspects upon Rahu. But here in this 18 months, you want to either be expressing yourself communicatively through marketing and sales or PR, or you want to go out there and do mass communication and television. This is more like third house, more television. Fifth house is more movies. So here, or you want to be on YouTube, man. You want to be out there like KRS. So that's what Rahu will do in the third house. Here, there's also going to be unusual situations occurring with your near dear family members, your siblings. There could be overblown of situations with the siblings. Like, let's say if Rahu is passing through the sign of Scorpio, okay, in the third house, and you have younger siblings, what will happen is a small little argument will be overblown, magnetized. So if, like, this is my remote, and if you put a magnet on it, it's this big of a remote. Somebody else looking on the camera will be like, my God, what is he doing with this gigantic remote? But the remote is just that big. And so what happens is things may overblow out of proportion with your siblings. And so if you get into a fight, that fight will turn so bad that one of you are moving out. At the same time, Rahu moves into the fourth house. Here's a time where a person wants to suddenly expand their property. They want to renovate their property and want to make the property look nice and big, castle-like. A person would feel like, you know what? I need to go away. I need to like move away from my home for a while. I want to take foreign trips during this period. Because Rahu is what? Rahu is foreign things, unusual things. So in the fourth house, yes, it can give you interaction with ghosts, foreign things. You may have foreign people come in your house. So your friend from Netherlands is coming to stay with you in New Delhi. A foreign person is coming in the house. You may either suddenly feel over empowered with the love in the home through the mother, or there will be situations like third house will be blowing up out of proportion. So this is why it's important to see what planets are there, because certain planets, certain transit over those planets will trigger things where, yeah, you will get fight with your mother and you're moving out, or she's moving out. I don't think she will move out. She'll probably kick you out. But fourth house, on a positive side, may suddenly bring an opportunity to have property in foreign lands, or to even get a bigger property in your life. Rahu transits the fifth house. Fifth house is our education, our children, creative self-expressions, movies, cinema, mantras, ancient knowledge. It's a house of romance. It's the house of changing jobs, end of job, because it's 8th from the 10th house. It's the study of the occult. Why study of the occult? Because it's 10th from the 8th house. So many things are there in the 5th house. Rahu transits over that. This is a great time if you are looking to adopt a child. If you're trying to go for an IVF treatment, in vitro. So this process shows having a child through unusual ways. In this 18-month period, you may even have twins. Because what? It's an unusual birth of twins. Rahu can give you C-section. Unusual things. At the same time, though, your ability to express yourself creatively will be very, very profound. Like a person here, especially if there's Venus involved, would suddenly want to be part of some sort of a play, some stage performance. Also, they will have many romantic encounters in this time period. And for some people, while they're single or if they're married, I mean, there are people who are chronic cheaters. And in the 5th house transit, they will have far more interaction of romance and flirtations than any other time, especially with people of different origins, different ethnic and cultural background. Here, Rahu can suddenly, in your youth, can give you studies related to softwares, research-based studies, scrutinizing bacteria and viruses. You will suddenly be very competitive, and especially in sports, you'll do very well. Then Rahu goes into the 6th house. 6th house is a house of enemies, debts, poison, small animals, pets, non-profit organization, service, social welfare, social reform. 6th house represents disputes, disagreements, divorces. So here when Rahu comes into the 6th house, being a natural malefic planet, Rahu does quite well in the 6th house. Here Rahu can help you avail your enemies, put an illusion on your enemies, defeat your competition. For that 18 months, You're going to be in your everyday work life, because sixth house represents routine. Your everyday work life will be all about either dealing with foreign people, traveling to foreign places. At the same time, that danger of poison is there, because sixth house represents illnesses, diseases. And so, like I was talking about, food poisoning or getting some venom from somewhere. But there has to be like 2 or 3 other combinations for like snake bites or something like that, which I'm not going to tell you, because then you all will be looking at your chart, and if you see that, you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm going to be bitten by a snake. No, very rarely these combinations are there, because many people I've seen who have gone through their Rahu Mahadasha, and I tested it, like, did you were bitten in this time period? They weren't. So there are these many combinations that cancels things and brings other things into play. Sixth house, Rahu will either completely wipe your debt off or will build enormous amount of debt. So wiping the debt off, meaning Rahu can give you or help you file a bankruptcy. So you can wipe your debt off. Or Rahu may bring you many opportunities to get loan from this bank and this credit card and this thing. Then Rahu transits your 7th house. Also, Rahu in the 6th house can actually have the beginning of some sort of a dispute. So like, when you finally get a divorce, you feel like, what, my relationship started deteriorating maybe 18 months ago or something, and now finally we decided to get a divorce. Now again, this doesn't mean that you're going to get a divorce. No, Rahu has to be in a very bad form, and you have to have a yoga for a divorce. If you don't have a yoga for divorce, it's not going to do anything of that. So Rahu, when transits the 7th house, what it is doing is kind of doing the similar thing to the 1st house. Because remember, 7th house is like your mirror image. It's like a mirror. You look in the front and you try to relate to others so you can understand yourself better. In this time period, one is definitely obsessively inclined towards wanting to be in a relationships, wanting to have a relationship with foreign people, people of different culture and ethnic backgrounds. One suddenly want to enterprise, like they want to do business. For this 18 months, they will have opportunities and inclination towards wanting to do business and business partnerships. And if the combination there, these people can do great business, especially with foreign partnerships. So if, let's say, you are in India and you found a partner in UK, great profits. And then here, Rahu can expose you to the masses. 7th house represents the other people, right? Whether it's your friends, enemies, foe and homie, foamy. Everybody who's out there in the world is the 7th house. This is why it represents mass fame, worldwide fame. So if you are in the right industry at the right time and Rahu transits the 7th house, it can suddenly bring fame to you. Whether in a good way or a bad way, maybe either you had a hit movie or you were busted for a DUI and you hit somebody on camera and now your video's gone viral on YouTube and Vimeo, and so now you are becoming that celebrity. But the focus is towards wanting to understand other people, interact with other people, and to seek fame. And to seek gratification of other people. Rahu transits the 8th house. Oh, also in the 7th house, because it's that house that blows over proportions. Again, your small arguments with the spouse can become huge. Or your spouse may actually want to put a different type of face or transform themselves differently than who they are. So if you have a spouse and Rahu transits and suddenly she wants to get a plastic surgery, She wants to get breast implant. I mean, that's got to be a exalted Rahu in your case. But spouse may want to transform themselves, because that's what Rahu is transformation. And then Rahu then moves into the 8th house of transformation. 8th house represents what? 8th house is other people's money, assets, your in-laws, your spouse's family, joint assets, insurance, life and death scenarios. It is things that are buried underground, hidden from the world. So whether you were talking about occult, mysticism, sorcery, tantra, dead bodies, graveyard, oil, petroleum, manufacturing, government spies, they're all from the 8th house. Also, actually, I forgot to add, Rahu in the ascendant can actually make you a spy, because Rahu is disguised, right? You're not who you are. So in this time period, if you want to, go and spy on somebody, whether you're working for the government or not, this would be the great time. But in the 8th house is when Rahu can give you interaction with the illusion. And so 8th house also represents ghosts. So yes, a person can see ghosts. And sudden obsession and interest and focus is going to be towards research, digging deeper information. And then Rahu is, like I said, it overblows things out of proportion. So you just seeing a small little tidbit, you may think you just saw like the devil. And this is why that fear comes into play. Because 8th house is just, imagine, 8th house is just this dark alley, this hole where no light goes through. It's like a black hole. And you just have to go through it. But right when you step in, you're just scared out of your mind. Like, what's going to happen now? What's going to touch me now in this dark place? Yet you don't know. Instead of ghosts, there might be angels trying to touch you. So there's positive and negativity with everything. You can find a treasure in the 8th house, or you may just find some bones in the graveyard in the 8th house. But Rahu shows there's more focus towards attaining profits through your in-laws, through spouse, trying to get speculative sudden gains. Like here in this time period, a person is more obsessed about attaining lottery and wanting to win a lottery than any other time. Because you want to get other people's money, right? So what is a lottery? Everybody's putting their money in, and when the stack is big, someone gets it. That's what Rahu wants to grab that. Rahu transits the 9th house. In this 18 months, obviously, you're going to take many foreign trips, long distance trips. You're suddenly going to want to be, if you're in your youth, and you want to gain access to a foreign university, higher education in foreign places, Rahu is excellent for that. But here Rahu will bring about very unorthodox, unusual, self-direct beliefs about what life is. A perfect example would be, let's say, like Hitler. Hitler wants to give a speech that we are number one, Germans are number one. You got to, if you eliminate all the Jews, you're going to take care of the evil from this thing. So what's happening is that malevolent energy of Rahu is bringing this new belief system. It's like it's rigging your original system for that time period. Now, obviously, Hitler is a long-term idea. That's like embedded in your chart. But in that 18 months, you're going to be having this sense of belief, like this is right and this is not right. And what I believe in is the Holy Grail, is that overblown truth. So if someone says, oh, don't go to college, it is a waste of time for you. You're going to incur so much debt, you're going to make only a little bit of money, and then what? you're going to be in your debt for 30 years. No, don't do it. While on the right mind, the person will be like, well, look, if you need to be a doctor and if you're trying to be an engineer, of course you're going to have to get education, right? You're going to have to take higher education. Otherwise, you can't do those jobs, at least not in a corporation. They're going to look for qualifications. So that's the right way of thinking. But because Rahu is there, it's rigging that. It's bringing this rebelliousness to the system. And you'll have your unorthodox view towards religion and towards your teachers, gurus, or fathers. You'll be like, well, no, I don't really like the way you're teaching me astrology. I think astrology is this. I don't want to follow Bhigunadi Jyotish. I want to follow this astrology. No, I don't want to follow Vedic astrology. I want to follow Western astrology. Or if I don't want to follow Western astrology, I want to follow Vedic astrology. And then once this passes, you realize, oh my God, what was I thinking? My passion lies in Western astrology. For that little time being, I just wanted to argue with people, and something came over me where my belief system was just out of proportion. But if Rahu is in a very good dignity, Rahu can bring this obsession towards learning more of the right thing. It's still negative to be obsessive about something, right? Like when I tell people, do you want to be an astrologer? They're like, yeah. I'm like, are you obsessed about astrology? If you're not obsessed about astrology 24/7, forget it. You are not going to become an astrologer, because to be an astrologer 24/7, you got to think astrology. So that's what Rahu will do. In a very nice earth sign, Rahu will bring this sudden overblown interest towards learning the Vedas or your religion that you're in. Rahu goes into the 10th house. Again, exposure to the society. Because 4th house is your private world. 10th house is the world that is outside the house. It may not be the world at large. It'll just be the society or the people that you know outside in your professional life. But here Rahu will try to bring this sense of fame in work. Either you'll be recognized at work, or you're going to take action towards wanting to be recognized. You're going to be more outgoing. You're going to be wanting to talk to your bosses. You're going to want to be talking to your co-workers. And you're going to want to be like, hey, I did this work, did that work. So, yeah, you recognize me. But fame-wise, fame can shoot up in especially the 1st, 2nd, 5th, 7th, 10th house. Rahu can definitely give you that. And in the 10th house can show foreign opportunities to work, especially nowadays, becomes very, very important. Like, especially in my career consultation, I come through all these people, when they got opportunity with MNC, which is multinational companies. So if you're working for Citibank, JP Morgan in India, Rahu must have been transiting your 10th house, or you're looking at your 10th lord. And don't worry, we'll look at the aspects too in the other parts. Right now we're just doing the Rahu itself, because Rahu looks at the 5th and 9th aspect, also has a 3rd and 11th aspect. Then Rahu transits the 11th house. 11th house represents gains, hopes, wishes, desires. It's a house of marriage, elder sibling. Marriage, because it's 7th from romance, the 5th house. So what is the result of romance? Marriage, on most basic of scenarios. It's your elder sibling, it's your professional network circle, large organizations. So again, Rahu brings this foreign element. And in this time period, a person will be more inclined towards creating more friends. Even if you're a loner, somehow you are going to be coming across people for a little short time where you think they're your friends and you're hanging out with them, and suddenly something happens, you don't call them for months on end, and then you don't want to call them because you're like, whatever, not interested. But that's what the Rahu brings, this sense of like, hey, look at me. I have a large network of circle of friends. and I know all these people. And I clearly remember this too, and through my own experiences, where when I was doing fashion photography for like 2 years, and I was in New York, and meeting all these new photographers and designers and models and whatnot, and I'm like, oh my God, here I'm a loner, and now I've got number of this person, this person, this person, this person, and then once I came back, I never touched those things, and I never were in contact with them. So that 1 year period, I studied it, and I'm like, wow, yeah, it was impacting this illusion part of my life. Not my birth chart, but again, it was just there in different charts. So that sense of overblown of proportion comes into play, where you just simply want to know everybody and who can help you in this time period, who you can benefit from. You look for that. Your relationship in this time period, which are created professionally, are all about profession, are all about what am I going to gain from you. It's not about genuine friendships. In this time, you're getting Rahu-like people. That's what you're attracting. Rahu is this just smoke that appears and disappears. A real friend is, Venus and Mercury and Jupiter, the physical planets who are there in front of you. But symbolically, people who will come in this period may actually slowly disappear. Yet, on an illusionary side, your hopes, wishes, and desires can come true. Like, you were looking to date that girl the whole time, and now you're dating that girl. Bam! That hopes and wishes came true, right? But then you find out you have nothing in common with them. You don't want to be with them. They're not what you thought they were. It was good in the first 2-3 weeks, but now it's... So that Rahu brings that illusion of hopes and wishes becoming true, but in reality, are they really becoming true? Then Rahu transits the 12th house. Vivid dreams comes into play. I mean, you'll have the most unusual, crazy dreams that you can't even make sense of. Because 12th house represents that astral world away from the physical form. That's where the spirit world is, the spiritual world. That's where we see the astral projection, the subconscious mind of a person. Like 3rd house, 12th house can become that subconscious houses. 8th house becomes our psychological baggage. So in this period, Rahu, within the 18 months, can take you to foreign places and foreign lands. Meaning, places which are 7 seas across. Like you're going to be having to cross some sort of an ocean. So if you go from India to Bangladesh or Pakistan, that's more of that 9th house travel. Here, Rahu can take you from US to or India to US, or US to UK. And many foreign opportunities, many opportunities to make foreign friends, coming across foreign spiritual people, foreign spiritual gurus. Yet, here, you will have definitely many foreign sexual encounters if you're single or if you have that personality that you want to do those things. Because 12th house is bed pleasures. You may do also something wrong because if Rahu is in bad dignity, one may do something wrong, may end up in a jail because 12th house is jail. And Rahu is a malefic planet. Is literally like a felon in a way, in a Vedic sense. You may end up in some isolated places for 18 months. Like I remember this great article on Von Paul Manley's website. I think it's his website, where he talked about when one of the gurus looked at his chart and said, you're going to be in a jail for 18 months. And Von Paul Manley, I'm guessing it was his website. when I was reading this, like 4 or 5 years back, and he says he got scared. I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing my PhD. How the hell am I going to end up in a jail? But then what he found out, he had to do his research in a jail. And he did his thesis study on there. So he went to jail, but not as a bad person, but as somebody who's a good person and trying to learn more. So again, it's that dignity of Rahu that has to be seen to see which type of a 12th house situation you'll end up in. But here, especially for a creative person, for a spiritual person, a great time to connect with the side of life that is very hard to reach that everybody wants to reach. Like 12th house, this 18 period can give sudden interest towards astronomy, aerospace, may give interest towards, wanting to learn about aliens and Palladians, telekinesis and telepathic powers. So everything is here. And especially here is more interest because remember, Rahu is overblowing that. So you're definitely in that. It's already an illusionary world, and Rahu is like, again, putting this aura of the illusion, the bubble of illusion on you. So it's a time period where if a certain planet is there, it can be quite chaotic, where you can just feel like you're going crazy, or you may be in a complete bliss. And this is also 12th house, represents addiction still. One may be on LSD and experimenting with drugs during this time period and thinking they're like this overblown thing when they're not. They think they're singing with angels and it's just a wall. Okay? So guys, this is my analysis of Rahu transit part A. We still have many more parts to cover for Rahu transit, so next week we'll cover part B. Now, if you need to know where your planets are placed, where your Rahu is transiting from, all my astrology reports, books, consultations, check out the links here. Otherwise, subscribe below for my next video. Otherwise, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.